So here's something we added. So this area, you've all seen videos of Lefty laying in here with his chin up on the center console there, looking, to me, very uncomfortable. So I got this, actually Mom had this, airtight pet food storage. They had a dog, unfortunately got old and passed away about a year back. So she had this food container in their garage, and I was talking to her about how I always wanted to fill this gap between the seat and the dash, so, you know, in essence making his laying area bigger. And she said, will this thing fit in there? Now it had some wheels on it, so I brought it out here, and as far as the height goes, I said, yeah, if we take the wheels off, well, they just unscrewed right out of the bottom. And now we have his food container. You know, I used to keep his bag of food sitting here, but it only worked in this fashion when it was new, when it was full up with food. And then as he ate more and more and the bag got smaller and smaller, it no longer worked. But this is, I think, really excellent for what I needed. Fills the gap. I had this pad already. You know, now he's where normally, like right now, his head would be hanging off of the chair. Now he's got this, and it gives a little bit of a rise here, so it's got a little bump to it, which he kind of puts his face against so far. So this is new. So once he gets more used to it, I'm happy that he's going to be able to stretch out a little bit more. And I'd like to get actually a bed to lay in here for him that has bolsters all around it, because I think that would be great. You know, this bolster kind of leaning against the door when it's closed, and then going up here, so much more comfortable for him when we're on long traveling days. So I'm out here right now to put this in the dashboard. When I got the truck, this vent here was broken. You can see how the fins aren't connected side to side. The up and down still works, but side to side, there's supposed to be a connecting piece down in here that connects these three fins together. Well, it was gone. And so this has always been difficult for me, you know, when we're driving and I want to reach over and make sure this is blowing on Lefty, you know, if we've got the AC running, and you know, I have to kind of get my fingers between these and space them out. So I found on eBay, this is reported to be a brand new part. It was in a box that had Ford labeling and everything on it. It's got a Ford part number. Now, is this real or is it counterfeit? I don't know. It was like $16 on eBay. And so I ordered it, and it took like 10 days to get here. It was one of those SurePost where it shares the shipping duties with either FedEx or UPS, one of the two. And what that results in typically is really long delivery time. It was only coming from Connecticut, so should have been here like 2 days max, and it took like 10 days. I got it, opened up the package, and it was the wrong part. They had shipped me a door handle pocket, not even for this truck. It was black, smaller, you know, the piece that goes behind the door handle. So obviously they pulled the wrong part and shipped it to me. So I contacted them. I didn't just do a return through eBay. I was a nice guy and contacted them through eBay messaging and said, hey, this is what happened. I sent them a picture, said, what do you want to do? They said, we'll ship you a new one right away, which they did. And it got here in 3 days this time, same shipping location. So I still have the old part, you know, and this is a week ago plus now, and I sent them a message and said, hey, what do you want me to do with this old part? And they said, we'll send you a shipping label. They're a huge seller. They've got like 800,000 feedbacks, so they're a huge seller. Said, we'll send you a label. And I said, okay, great. And then I said, oh my gosh, what did I do with that part? I had put it back in the padded envelope and sealed it back up. and I couldn't find it for the life of me. So yesterday I'm scrambling all over. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Now I've actually contacted them. What do you want to do with it? We're going to have you send it back, and now I can't find it. So after looking everywhere that I could think of, I even emptied both the recycle and the trash bins in Mom's garage to see if I had put it in there. Finally yesterday, I'm out here in the truck and I'm doing something in this area over here, and I'm like, did I put it under here? So I flipped this up, and sure enough, there it was. So this was the incorrect part that I'm still holding on to, and they still haven't sent me a shipping label. I don't know if they ever are, but if they don't send it to me by the end of next week, chances are they're not getting the thing back because I'm hitting the road. And that leads me into what I wanted to talk about today. So we are planning, today is Sunday, so I'm planning by the end of this coming week to be on the road and leaving New York. So I'm going to contact my friend Ghislaine and see where she is, see if I get a Target and go out there and meet up with her, and I think she's with some other people. So at least I have somewhere to go to Target for. So this week is going to be trying to button up every last thing. What I am going to be doing between now and then is I absolutely have to change out the coolant in the engine. These engines, the spec by Ford says that the coolant needs to be, it needs to be maintained. The diesel engines need to have that additive in there for cavitation and all this stuff that I'm learning about. But they suggest every 15,000 miles, you've got to test your coolant level, and if it needs it, you've got to put some of the additive in that keeps, I forget what the measurements are. You get these test strips and you dip them in the coolant, and they have to be within a spec, and if they're not, you got to put this additive in. So, okay, so I'm trying to learn all this stuff, but I do know that I want to change out the coolant. So what I'm going to be doing is the flushing method with distilled water. So it requires 4 gallons of coolant, and then for the flushing and the refill, 20 gallons of distilled water. So I've got the coolant coming. I've got a replacement cap for the expansion tank because those fail, and it's $10, so I'm replacing that. I got the coolant coming, I've got the test strips coming, I've got the additive coming. Now I shouldn't need the additive right away. When I put new coolant in it, I should be within spec, so I'll test it and make sure of that. But then as I put thousands of miles on it, I'm going to want to test it again and see if I need to put the additive in. So I'm going to have it on board and with me. It is a Motorcraft, so it's not available like at parts stores and all that. And neither are these test strips. I had to order them too. I went to all the parts stores here in town and none of them had it. And one of the guys looked at me like, what the heck are you talking about? So I think I knew more than he did. Change the coolant, flush it out with distilled water several times till I get it clear, and then add new coolant, test it to make sure it's within spec, put the new cap on the expansion tank. Also, I'm going to take the expansion tank out and clean it with baking soda inside, let it soak in there to clean out. There's a bunch of crust and stuff in there that I want to get cleaned out. So everything is due in by Tuesday. I'm going to get that finished, and then that's the last main thing that I've got to do before we can hit the road. So over the next several days, we're going to be tidying and tightening up the last little things, and one of them is getting this vent into the dashboard and get it out of the way. Okay, I just happen to have this set of trim tools for popping plastic trim apart. So let's see if we can use this. I had this from working on my daughter's Volkswagen back several years back. I put a big stereo in it for her while she was in high school, and had to pop off a bunch of the interior trim. So I held on to this, you know, who knows when you're going to need something. So let's see if we can get in here. 1 minute. Let's see if I can go from in here. There we go. Boy, that was I was making that a lot more difficult than it needed to be. Wow. Yeah, that side's out. There. There we go. Ooh, what do we got in there? Let me get a flashlight. We'll take a look inside. So does this look any different than the existing one? Huh. Yes. Well, the part number. So different part number doesn't mean it's not correct. These were used on a whole lot of different years. Let me get a flashlight. A little dusty, not terrible. I think I've seen worse. Yeah, that's not so bad. I'll wipe it out real quick before we pop the new vent in. Huh, that's interesting. Little leaf, but there's also a piece of plastic. Huh, that sure looks like, whoops, that sure looks like it's part of the like door system somewhere in there. Hope not. Hope it's, I mean, everything works. Like when I turn it to the floor, it goes to the floor. I turn it to the vent, it goes to the vent. Turn it to defrost, it goes to defrost. So, just putting some spray 9 on a paper towel here. Reach right up in there. It's awesome. Super Duty. It's big. Oh, much better. Holy smokes. Yeah, it's like brand new. That, oops. That looks better. Nice and clean now. Okay. Enough of that. Let's get this back together. Which way does it go in? It's like that. So there's a key, I'm gonna call it, and there's a mark right there at the bottom because this is not symmetrical, you know, there is a direction. Okay, so that when you put it in that way, this is like closed, and then open is all the way up. There we go. Nice. Very nice. Much better. I feel a lot better about that. So it's got nice positive motion now. It's, you know, it's not all flappy and loose. It actually takes a little bit of work to move it. So I can now point the AC directly at that guy right there when he's over here in his traveling spot. Excellent. So I'm continuing to, I call this puttering around in the truck and doing little things that fix little issues that I've had for a long time. So here's a good example. My trash can is now secured to the wall with a bungee cord and a couple of these. They're not D-ring. So they are kind of D-clamp. I don't know what the actual name is for these things. But they're super handy. So this bungee cord has this garbage can secured against the wall. And, you know, not a huge issue. I could have continued on without it, but that will keep that trash can. So now when I'm gonna hit the road, I don't have to do anything with the trash can. It just stays right where it is and it won't flop around. Whereas before, I always had to empty the bag, tie the bag up, get rid of it, because it would fall over during a road trip. So now keep in mind, one of the things that I'm always aware of is that I don't want my truck, my home, to start looking like it's thrown together. And I've seen rigs that I'm sure are fully functional and have all kinds of gadgets and doodads that are screwed here or taped there, and they're kind of crooked and they're not mounted the greatest, and they got sealant or glue showing, and there's a lot of them. And that kind of setup, it just clutters my brain, and I don't like seeing stuff like that. So I always have to be aware that I don't want to do too many things and have too many gadgets and too many little bungee cord, D-ring fasteners holding stuff together. Because the more and more that you add on, it starts looking cluttered and busy, and that bothers my brain for whatever reason. It messes with my soup up there and gets me feeling, I don't know, disturbed. So I try to keep things as minimalist as possible while still having good functionality. So another thing that I did, let me show you this. And I hope we have enough light. Let me open up the curtains back here. Okay, those are just regular door springs, if you can see them. Those are door springs that hold the curtain really tight and allow you to just zip it open like that, and it holds it where you put it. So in this cabinet back here, this is a pretty large open cabinet that I always had like my pots and pans, cleaning supplies right here. I had my coffee maker in there, and it was all just a jumbled, thrown together kind of a mess. And this shelf was not there. There was no shelf. And I couldn't figure out how to get a shelf in there because this door, this is a sealed door. So in other words, you can only get through a shelf that will fit through this door, but then it also has to go from wall to wall in there. Now there were push-in shelf holders here, so it used to have a shelf. It wasn't there when I got the truck. So a couple weeks ago I said, you know what, I'm gonna figure this out. I went in the garage, and lo and behold, thank you Mom, she had saved more of the pieces of wood from last summer when I was building, and this piece right here fit in here. Yes, I had to make one length cut and that's it, but the depth was exactly where it needed to be to catch these shelf holders. They're push-in. There's holes drilled in the wall, and these have a pin that pushes into that hole, and it's just a simple L. So this piece of wood had to be the exact right depth to be able to fit in through this window, this doorway, and then be able to go into position without getting all caught up on everything. So I put that shelf in there. I did fasten it. Those L brackets had holes in them, so I did put 4 screws to keep it from flopping, because on the first trip with it, test trip, the shelf did fall off of those. So now it's up in there, but I was able to fit my pots and pans, frying pans, sauce pots, everything is up there. And I put a bungee strap across to hold them in place, again with some of these fasteners on the wall, and that cleared up this whole bottom area that was just pots and pans all jumbled together. Now I also put some of these same D-clamps with a bungee that holds all of my bottles against the wall there, and that works perfect. Those things don't go anywhere. And so this is a much more organized. I got rid of my big Mr. Coffee machine, and now I have this smaller one It's a little Black & Decker, makes 1 cup at a time, uses regular coffee grounds, doesn't require a filter, has a, you know, the mesh metal filter. Makes a 14-ounce cup of coffee. It starts brewing. You hit the go button, and within 30 seconds, it's already pushed the hot water up and going through the grounds. So I used it when we went down to the Finger Lakes Forest the other day. It works. It makes a cup of coffee, and it only uses minimal battery power, you know, that runs from the inverter, but way, way less power than when I was using my big Mr. Coffee machine. So I like getting all these little odds and ends fixed up so that when I go to travel, I don't have stuff flying all over the place, kind of like I used to. Now I really want to figure out how to put some shelf separators up here that would be adjustable, so depending on how many items I have on the shelf, I could put a separator right here that would, you know, hold all of these items against the wall. Because when I drive, these cans, obviously, they slide all the way all over the place. Everything does up here. So I really would like to figure out a way to put some separators that are adjustable so they can be moved depending on how many items I have in the shelf. The only thing I've come up with so far is get really short spring-loaded, like curtain rods, the spring-loaded rods, and put 2 of them, you know, up and down, and then just a piece of something in between them, piece of wood or plastic or something. So those would be adjustable. I could move them back and forth. They'd be spring-loaded. So that's the only idea I've come up with so far, and I think it would be pretty clean looking. And, you know, no install. You just put the rods up there and put something against them and push it up against the food items, and that would hold them. So that's what I think I'm leaning towards doing. I guess if I want to do it, I better go ahead and get them ordered real quick, because I'm down to the last several days of being here, and I don't want to be waiting for something to show up that I've ordered, putting us off from traveling. So thanks everybody for watching. This is just a bunch of little nitpicky stuff that I'm doing as usual, I guess, right? So thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, do all those great things. Always stay with us. Get notifications so you know when the next video comes out. Thanks. See everybody really soon. Be good.